My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and then I'm like, it's better than yours. And I'm right, it's better than yours. I can teach you, but I have to. Hey. What's up, y'all? Honey Gold Jasmine here, and I gotta get something off my chest. I've read every Reddit thread I could find. I've binge watched every theory video I could see. And I honestly can't get enough of this show, Severance. I watched it when it first premiered on Apple TV 3 years ago. And yes, I've been patiently waiting for season 2, and it's here. And I've been over here trying to talk to Ajman about it. I sound like I work at Lumen. Like, I thought, what better than to come to the internet and just have like a cozy combo about this episode that just came out, and just also about some of my theories about what the heck is even going on in the show. I love the way that they did this mystery box plot. It's just so crazy to peel back the layers of the onion and then realize there's more layers to peel. Sat there and watched the episode, and as I'm watching it in my bed, cozy with my bonnet on, ugly cute, you know what I'm saying? I took notes. So I got them right here on my screen, and I'm putting my glasses on because I literally need them. You feel me? This show has so much going on that I literally have to take, a show got me taking notes. Mind you, I do that for work. All I do is take notes and write all day. So like if a show can get me doing work while I'm watching the show, they got me. Oh my God. Anyways, let's talk, right? In the comments, please let me know what I missed. So first we see Mark coming down this elevator hella abruptly, aggressively, and he's coming into a brand new severed floor, right? There's no more wellness center. The MDR department is still there, but he has a whole new team. And this opening shot with the different angles and the boom, bop, bam type of shit about you wouldn't understand. I was like, oh my God, like what? And they said it took like 5 months to film. That's dedication. But it also reminded me of like a mouse in a maze. Like this whole shit is like when you're in a maze, you see a mouse in a maze and they could pick up a wall and then like place it down somewhere else like it's nothing. And then the mouse has to figure out a whole new way to get to the stimuli, the thing that they ultimately want them to interact with at the end of the day. But he walks into a new department. And when he walks into this new department, it's literally a recycling of when he first came into the department. And I do think that the balloons represent the number of times that he's been reset in this period of time between them getting outside and them now being back in the office, him being back in the office at this point, right? Because at this point in the episode, he's the only one that we know in the office. And him saying it's been a minute, it's like even in AAV you could be like it's been a minute and it's been like a day or it's been like hella long, which I thought was an interesting touch because I understood that contextually, like kind of culturally I should say, on sort of a different level where that was like damn. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people too, but like that was dope. And I do think, right, let's stick on that. The fact, and this may not be that deep, right? But this show's deep. The fact that this whole company started during like the Civil War time, and then Milkshake is the Milkshake. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and then I'm like, it's better than yours. And I'm right, it's better than yours. I can teach you, but I have to. Hey. So I think with him, I think that he actually is somebody that helped Kier at a certain time, like, and he saw a certain freedom in like being able to be in this role. That might be some other shit, but and I could be wrong. All of this is just like we just chilling. So basically, he goes through this whole charade of different pranks, if you will, to get his old team back. And I was hella confused when this started happening because I'm like, okay, they're obviously replacing the people that he had before with people with like similar energy, right? So this is obviously an experiment, but Mark is the only one that's the test subject. All the other variables can somewhat be switched out because they're soliciting the same emotional response. They also allowed him to remember his old coworkers. And this is where I want to see these certain gaps filled, because when they went to the control room, there was hella different protocol. Do they not have a protocol where they can like make him forget the old coworkers so that his new coworkers don't solicit so much of a response of like, who are you? Or like, why are you here? And why is it different? That part stumps me, because I'm like, if they have so much control over the innies, why can't they just selectively pick memories? And that's why I low-key feel like them doing that stuff on a computer is not refining their own chip. Because if it was, wouldn't he just be able to refine out these memories and responses that aren't beneficial for Lumen? So that part makes me be like, even more so, I think that they are affecting macro data of cities, right? Like, if you take it at face value, you feel me? He's trying to sell this whole, you haven't been here in 5 months and it's the worst thing that ever happened, right? I don't believe the 5 months for a second. I don't think that the 5 months I think 5 months is just an arbitrary number. I think at most maybe 5 days. I think it's been like 5 days of chaos up top. And now they're just like cleaning it up, because the things they need to do are obviously affecting the world at a grand scale that's beyond their like office, right? Because you got, or even beyond the floors below them, because you got the Lexington letter where you had somebody blowing up a truck after they've completed this file. So I personally think that they're affecting people to do these things. I also thought it was interesting that there was another mark. A mark is somebody that's like a dummy. They failed for something. They got scammed. They're the target of somebody's wrongdoing. So I think that's even more interesting, that like Mark is really the target, and then everything else is just the controlled experiment with Mark. The fact that there's another Mark, and him specifically being like, oh, what should we say? Because look, I have a common name. Usually if I'm in a room with another person that has my name, there's a nickname, or there's a straight up, you say my name and my last name. So if there's another Jasmine, I'm in class. I'm Jasmine S. The other person is Jasmine R. I might be Jazzy, they're Jazz. I might be Jazz, they're Jasmine, right? It's kind of like that. So it's interesting that they had him say that, and it does make you think that those were the failed experiences, the experiments from other departments, and they're bringing them to this department. But then again, it's like, why? Like, this is why I love this show. Miss Wan. This part is tricky. I'm not completely sure of her involvement in everything yet, but I do think there's a Miss Cobell connection with her going to this school, and maybe there's these different orphanages that raise people that don't have to be severed because they're already in that cultish life and they've never been outside except for in these like controlled company towns, right? Which is kind of what I think Milkshake is too, with him being moved to severed floor management and like stating, I am not severed, I am an unsevered man. And him also mentioning that almost a little bit of remorse when he was like, I locked you in there like an animal. And it almost made me think they're not necessarily trying to hurt Mark, right? Like they're not trying to hurt Mark. They're trying to groom Mark. They're grooming Mark for something. That's why I'm like, is he going to be the husband to Helly? And that's why they had to kill Miss Casey, aka Gemma, because when they start merging his lives, he's going to be this new love interest, which brings us to the break room. I'm kind of jumping around, but it's because that's the way my mind is connecting it. Why would they go out of their way to show a romantic connection that they don't want other people to experience, which is they swear they're going to show other employees, but I don't believe that either. But why would they make it that a point? So we got to talk about this newspaper, okay? This newspaper. They said trusted source. First of all, I don't trust nothing that come out of Milkshake mouth. I don't trust nothing that come out his mouth. This newspaper and then the fake redactions. First of all, you know that they think like children, the innies, because my adult self would be like, well, why are you handing me a newspaper that's already redacted? Like, it's fake and redacted. Like, and then the stuff I can read, you don't want me to read. So, like, what's the point? One thing that I did peep was this newspaper said trusted source. This newspaper also had PE as the state abbreviation. And I know that states are specifically something that they talk about in their interviews when they first come in. They actually, what state are you in? And in this episode, we found out that they say different states. We had other people saying Wyoming. We had some people saying Delaware. And now I'm so intrigued because the dinner table conversation about war, they're talking about the Great War and how it wasn't called that at the time, blah, 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 blah. Keir's reign over this whole operation started around the Civil War. This is what I'm seeing from Reddit posts and whatnot, right? What if this was a whole other alternate reality that they created to still enslave people and then have them think they're free, like Cobell saying, right? One of her iconic lines. So I'm thinking with this state thing, there's different territories that are probably being created. And that's why even in the city of Keir, people don't even necessarily know that their city connects back to this cultish origin, right? It's like people in the city aren't even aware of the depth of the name of their own city and how underneath the ground they're running the city. And I think this PE thing and them asking about the states is not them trying to see if they still know basic information. They're trying to see if they know the information that they gave them. Because if the states don't necessarily have to be California, Alabama, yada, yada, yada. The states could be a whole other thing. Because they're even like, oh, did you find out what state we're actually in this new episode? They're not in the states as we think they are. They're in, but they want Lumen to think that. They want the Severed employees to think that for whatever reason that we don't know yet. So with this newspaper, he's also saying that they're a group that's become known as the face of Severance reform. That whole thing is obviously photoshopped. But it's got me thinking that there may be an angle here where they are the controlled opposition. The actual Severed floor is the anti-severance movement to a certain extent. Because yes, they want to control it within Lumen and have them keep doing their jobs. But it's making me think that the experience itself that Mark is having is to groom him to be this revolutionary. The fact that they're like, oh, Lumen is listening and saying that we're lighting up the load and then allowing them to kind of keep going. They know this is happening. They know that he's now right back on it and saying, I want to save my wife, yada, yada, yada. They've already primed him to feel like a love with this woman is the pinnacle of like what he should try to attain. Because the only things of like emotions that they share about Keir is him and his wife. They don't go into any other kind of dynamics of like family or anything like that. So it's like Keir, I think, is a person that's constantly trying to project his own experience onto other people, and he's done it through this company. Hence the recycling and him putting him through dynamics that he's been in a weird way. And then everybody that's come after him kind of living the different perspectives of this experience. I don't know. The MDR team refused to come back, right? And this part is just interesting because it makes you wonder how much time again has really passed and what methods they took to see why this team didn't want to come back and ultimately why they forced them back. I gotta talk about how Miss Wong was like, I'm not one of your little friends. I would have folded. I'm telling you. But it was sad to see too, because it makes you think like, damn, this child has had no life, no real freedom or childhood. Like her question even being like, what were you doing before this? And she's a crossing guard. Like, damn, y'all got the girl already working. I don't know exactly where. That's why her presence is mystifying me. Like them throwing her in there is like a new piece to the puzzle that you don't know how it's supposed to fit. That's how she feels to me. She doesn't have a real childhood, and Lumen may be all she knows. And she got a black card though. And I ain't talking about the kind you could spend, the kind that you can go anywhere in the building. I peeped that. going to the break room, the fact that she was able to open it, it makes me think that maybe she isn't severed either. She's more moldable, right? Like she, in these cult-like environments, if you're born into it and you're a child and that's all you know, they maybe become more devout than the adult that chose to come into it. So we have the team come back somehow, some way, with Mark's whole tantrum, and I'm gonna call it a tantrum because it definitely was. Even him writing the note and not even trying to disguise his handwriting, like it was very childish, and he didn't think these things through, obviously, but it was enough to get the board listening and sending the team back. One thing that really stuck out to me was Dylan asking, who was me? Who was me? Who was Dylan? I guess you could say Dylan was maybe the woman, I don't remember her name, but the new person that was like kind of pressing him for answers about the outside, kind of like her talkative nature. But I don't know. I mean, I need to go back and see like who was possibly, but I thought it was interesting that he asked who was me, because it's almost like he instinctually knows a lot of things. Like if you go back and listen to some of the things that Dylan has said, he really be cooking. And another thing he said was, don't feel bad for ending their lives. I'm sure they deserved it. That's a really interesting thing to me, because I think a lot of things that Dylan says gives away ultimately the bigger picture. I think that's also why we haven't seen Dylan's life, because I think once we really see Dylan's life, like we'll see what really Severance is about on a bigger level and what Lumen is about on a bigger level. And I think that Dylan's life gives a lot away, and that's why we haven't seen his life, because once we do, it'll unlock a lot. Him saying don't feel bad is almost making me think of like when I watch a lot of true crime and they start asking the person that did wrong, well, like, what do you think should happen to the person that did blah blah blah? And the person that did it will be like, I think they should get the death penalty. I think that they should be under jail. Like, I almost feel like this is one of those moments. He has a cognitive dissonance about like who he is on the inside and who he is on the outside. And Dylan to me is my favorite character, and he like intrigues me the most. And I think that like outside of this, he may be an alcoholic, and him and his wife are separated. Like they're not divorced, but they're separated. And he gets visitation with his son because maybe he was like an asshole, like maybe even low-key abusive or something like that. I think Mr. Milkshake comes and does the visitations, or like has something like that where he checks in on him, because I think even the fact that he thought nothing of it when he woke up again in the first season and said, are we done here? And Mr. Milkshake is in his like professional outfit, and the kid runs in, and none of that was weird to Dylan. Like none of it. Like I feel like Mr. Milkshake is somebody that checks in with the kid, like, oh, are you okay? Like, is the person hurting you? Blah, blah, blah. And then the kid, you know, talks to him in confidence, and then like Dylan must have thought it was cool to like be in the closet for whatever reason. Like I feel like the fact that he was not startled, like, why am I in the closet? Like that's a regular occurrence. And I think Mr. Milkshake is somebody that like helps with the visitation or whatever. And then Dylan probably chose to be severed because that was like the only way to have visitation with his kid. And that we're going to see that maybe like Severance is kind of forced into people's lives. Like there's people that they're willingly going to get it. And I think this whole campaign that they're doing is trying to see who wants to like willingly get it. Because they already been doing it. It's like something they already been doing, but they just don't like tell everybody, and they find little insidious ways to like sever people or whatever. I thought it was interesting that the incentives that they added were all basically tortures. And the building being voiced by Keanu Reeves, I didn't peep that until Reddit. Like, I'm so bad with voices, and I'm so bad with TV memory, which is why I have the notes. So if I do these reviews and stuff like that, forgive me, because I need to be able to see it actively in a moment. And one thing that really struck me about this whole, I guess you could say propaganda film that they showed, was they did the cutoff of the name thingy with the name of the actual uprising. Macrodat Uprising. And this is something that made me remember a theory I had from season 1, and just the way that, and seeing it on all the blogs and stuff like that, the fact that the names are cut off, but it's really their actual real name. And that may be the signal of them being severed. When he went to his sister Devin's house and he greeted Rickon, and he said Rick, and then Rickon was like, oh, it's Rickon or whatever. Rickon is somebody that's living as like fully integrated, in my opinion. And Devin either is not aware or she lives as a self that's not aware. And I think that Marcus may really be Marcus. I don't know. I think there's something to the fact that they cut off the end of the names when they've recycled something or made it anew or does whatever Lumen does. Still don't know. I just want to take a moment to admire the fact that the names that they picked for even the show and different things, they have different meanings that reverberate through other definitions. Lumen sounds like luminal spaces, Illuminati, you know, the idea of a secret cult doing something that affects the world. Illuminated, right? This is the way that you're supposed to go and cures this person that you're supposed to revere. Severance, right? Severance package, when you get let go. So, okay, that was just very fascinating to me. What pissed me off though was Helly lying in the break room. Why are you lying? The moment she lied, I said, that's not Helly. That's not Helly. Because Helly would have came straight off that elevator like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm Helena. Oh my God, like I run the whole company. Or she would have been like, bruh, I got the keys. Like I could really just go out, be myself again, tear this whole thing down. Like I just think that she would have came in a little more hot. She wouldn't have waited till all the way to the break room to finally be like, there's no cameras, there's no recorders. Yeah, because you're the camera and you're the recorder. You're the camera, you're the recorder. I don't know, I could be wrong. But I just feel like it's too obvious. Like it's way, 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 way too obvious. So I don't get why she lied, but I got why she lied. And I didn't like that she lied because I feel like Mark the only one being honest and everybody else lying. And I will give Irv a pass because honestly, I wouldn't trust either. I would not. I would be like, I don't know who y'all is, who y'all be. He's been there the longest. Irv been in this. He ain't new to this. He true to this. Like he's somebody. He's somebody you can't fuck with on the outside. Now we get to the group going two different ways. We got Irv and Dylan on their own journey. Dylan trying to convince Irv not to leave. And we got Helena, Helly, and Mark on their own journey. Now, I know a lot of people read this part as Helly being jealous of Miss Casey, but I don't feel like Helly was jealous of Miss Casey right here. I think that she was, again, trying to convince Mark damn near not to care about her and like just focus on her. Because even the fact that she didn't flinch or be surprised at this kind of like romance angle, I almost feel like that's why she went in, because she knows she has to make this romance happen. Because when you really think about it, why would Helena, the heir, the next to own everything and damn near know at least enough of what's going on to proceed over it? I don't know, is that the word? So she knows enough to be able to rule over it, to be able to take over as head of this cult. Why would they have her go to macro data refinement? If what they do is just nothing and there's risk of people going crazy or whatever it is, why would they put her in this department? I feel like it's because they're trying to make Mark be like her next lover or something like that, and they needed to be somebody on the inside. And I don't even know if Helena is like a person for real. Like, yes, we think that she's the daughter of Jane, but like, is that something that is really real? I don't trust anything in this show. If you can't tell, I don't trust anything. I don't think she was jealous of Miss Casey. I think that she was trying to convince Mark not to care, and then when she saw he still cared, she's like, oh, okay, I guess like I'll help you out. But throughout this, she might still be trying to, you feel me, see what's up, you feel me? But I was sad that Irv was heartbroken. I was like, damn. I love Irv and Dylan and their whole storyline and they whole moment they had, like heart to heart, just like, please don't go. Like that, I feel like transcended the show. Like that was like a conversation that, you know, if you've ever dealt with somebody dealing with that problem of wanting to unalive themselves, like, you know how tough it is. And for Dylan to be that strong person for him in that moment, That alone, like, I feel like that alone was like, wow, this show is really a masterpiece. 10 out of 10. That little bitch knew exactly where they was at, but it ain't no cameras. It ain't no recorders. They got recorders in the walls. This whole thing is an orchestrated maze that they be walking through. And they playing with my boy Dylan head. You know what I'm saying? They playing with everybody head, but like, I didn't appreciate Milkshake taking Dylan to the side and taking him to that room. And, oh yeah, don't tell nobody about the Audi family visitation suite. If you take the room at face value. Milkshake, that's how much he pissed me off. I can't even talk. Milkshake be pissing me off. He be pissing me off, but I love him. I love to hate him so much. Obviously, that Miss Cobell message was fucking with Milkshake head, and I love it. I love it because he be fucking with mine. So now you get a little piece of it. It was fucking with his head, and it also makes me think that it was definitely not 5 months. They switched stuff up instantly. They was able to get a whole Renaissance looking painting done in the hallway in a day. And you telling me they can't change a screen in 5 months? And honestly, I did love the scene with Miss Swan pulling out the water game and playing it because it made me happy for her. Like, okay, she has like a piece of something happy that's just kind of like mundane and, you know, like stretching her imagination a little bit. But of course, it's a Kier toy, and even that is creepy because what kid wants a grown man in a water toy swimming, trying to get the things around his hand? Like, who wants that? So the team decides that they're all going to work on their respective goals all together and see what the fuck going on at Lumen. Like, I don't even know if the object right now is to take Lumen down. Let's think about that for a second. They're not even talking about taking Lumen down. They're just simply trying to find out what's going on and being stopped. That's crazy. They ain't even got to that point. They're just trying to see, like, why are we not uniting? Why are we not seeing what's going on? And there's got to be something about this work that they're doing on this floor that they don't want people up top to know they got going on. And so they all decide to stay. They sit back in their chairs. They actually have the partitions lowered because they're family now for real. They've had different bonding experiences. And now they're going to keep doing their macro data refinements. And I want to talk about MDR. And I want to talk about what MDR means. I started thinking to myself, what other things does MDR mean, right? We have all these words that mean other things or can give you other meanings. And I don't think MDR just means macro data refinement. We cannot take it at face value. So I Googled MDR, and what do you know? We get managed detection and response. So a managed detection and response system is a cybersecurity service that combines technology with human expertise to rapidly identify and limit the impact of threats by performing threat hunting, monitoring, and response. The main benefit of MDR is that it quickly helps in limiting the impact of threats without the need for additional staffing, which can be costly. Do that not sound like macro data refinement to you? They only got 4 employees. They don't need additional staffing. They tell the humans to follow their intuition, but the technology does the work. That's how the technology knows what's the right or wrong answer, but the human is the one that has to actually pick it. And maybe there's something in the computer that can like match it up against things, like almost like unlocking a password, and why it may be linked to these bad things that happen, because when these bad things happen, they're able to maybe send some type of like, make a profile on that person feeling that throughout these cities, which is why I think the files are labeled as cities. But yeah, like before I even go to my theory for real, they all sit down, they decide to keep going, and Mark is looking at his screen. He's seeing his usual sorting buckets and whatnot. And then we start seeing a flash of Miss Casey's face with sort of like similar biometrics with her face under it, right? And then the episode ends. Now, this episode gave me everything I was waiting for. As you can see, I'm a fan of waiting for shit. I don't mind waiting. I could wait. And it was everything I wanted to see, everything I didn't even know I was going to see, and I can't wait for the next episode. So let me get into a bit of my theory. I think that Kier, the city itself, is a city within a bigger world. And this bigger world may have its own feelings about Kier, or may not even know Kier exists. And through this cult or whatever this is, they were able to sort of like work from the ground up, quite literally, like underground up, to pretty much erect these cities around it, which is why I think it was significant that they had the building be the facilitator of the propaganda that they saw in the break room, because I think that the building itself is more significant than maybe even other Lumen sites. And maybe they're even shutting down in other parts of the world because they're being deemed as a cult, like they're being deemed as unsafe in other parts, but they're unaware of this shutting down, kind of like how right now you have the Jehovah's Witness religion being shut down in certain countries as a cult. And then the idea of Scientology, even some of the things that were callbacks to religion in general, and Lumen kind of having that vibe too. I feel like there's an idea of like, this is what it would look like if the city itself was taken over by this certain cult or religion, but they still wanted to be covert to where even the citizens of the city didn't know. Now, the city was also dead though. So it does make me think that not only is this like a company town where people are aware of like their existence as their outie, I think their outie may even be like any, like on some Inception shit. Mind you, that's another one of my favorite movies, which is why I'm obsessed with this show. I love sci-fis that just have hella layers. I'm leaning more on the theory that at this revolving, not only will Helly become the new CEO, she will most likely get these CEOs in her head, and or at least find out that maybe they're still alive through the board, and maybe they're trying to replicate these memories that Kier has experienced through like the romance at work or whatever, and that's why they keep doing these experiments. Interesting. It's interesting. And even them like replicating, maybe even how Kier was a leader and why Mark is taking on this role as a leader, or even Helly is really taking on this role as a leader, and her needing to be like this next embodiment of Ambrose. The fact that they both have red hair, and Kier kind of in a way favors Jane. I could be off on that one, but I feel like they low-key favor each other. And I feel like at the revolving, they're literally just revolving through the same CEOs at this point. Like maybe they allowed them to have different identities up until Eleonora, because if you peep, everybody has a name that could sound complete. Like Kier, that could be Kieran, but at the same time, it could just be Kier. Then you have Ambrose, then you have Myrtle, then you have Bard, then you have Gerard, then you have Philip, then you have Leonora. Then you have Jane, who you would think will be James, but I low-key feel like he should be James, right? So I almost feel like maybe he was the first revolving, and so he's Kier, and now they're finna revolve to Ambrose, and so the CEOs kind of like take turns rather than like continuing to have kids. They just like take turns amongst each other, and because she's going to live without a spouse and the spouse can't really like know what's going on, Mark may be getting primed to like be with Helly, and Miss Casey might have low-key got in the way. That is my theory. And I also think that Miss Casey might have even been a whistleblower, and she got close to Mark trying to find stuff out about Lumen, and they ended up falling in love. And then when they saw, oh snap, you coming in on what was supposed to be ours, like he was supposed to already be immersed in this kind of upper echelon, different way of thinking kind of vibe. And then she came out of nowhere. And so they had to off her, in my opinion. And they either offed her or she didn't die and they're keeping her down there. Because in my opinion, she looked more lively in the eye. She looked more like she had more going on up there. So I almost feel like Jem is not really dead. They just switch her off when she goes up. So almost like how they get switched off coming down, she gets switched off coming up. And him seeing her face in the monitor, I don't think it meant that he was directly influencing her, but I think it meant that like that's his goal. I don't think it was that they were giving it away. I just can't accept that they were giving that part away so soon. I think it's a red herring. And I think that there's literally going to be a revolving, and they keep these stories revolving in the mind of Kier so that they can power something up that has to do with Kier. But the powering up may very well be them revolving the CEO to Helly. Does that make sense? It's a lot. I feel like I'm pointing at a board with strings on it right now. So I'd love to hear y'all's theories. I'd like to keep doing this on my channel because I need to like literally not sound crazy to everyone around me. Like I'm an innie. So peace outie to the outies. I will see y'all next time. It's been nice.